Yeah, well, I understand I got a lot on my mind, a lot on my chest. That's why.
What's going on, everybody? We're joined with Indie Breakdown, the show that breaks down your favorite indie comic book characters' power sets and abilities, and get them ready for an indie versus matchup. I am very excited for a conversation that's been taking place in the group here. Let me make sure that everybody can actually see the message that's taking place. Mm, one moment, please. Okay. Oh, 1 second. Happy holidays, by the way. Merry Christmas, all that jazz. Let's all the good stuff. So, okay, we hit the everyone tag, all that good stuff. Okay, so Nathan did a fantastic job with that post. I kudos to him. But I do want to be sure to shout out um, that this is what we've been saying. This is exactly what we've been saying, all that good stuff about there's more to these characters than just how strong they are and all this other stuff. So, again, prefacing saying outstanding post, outstanding dialogue that took place throughout the course of said post. But it is a perfect time to discuss now the database. I do want to point out a couple things in regards to the post there. Um, in regards to the writing prompts, I want to throw that out there. The writing prompts haven't officially started yet. The writing prompts have not officially started yet. So, with that being said, be on the lookout in January when those will actually begin. Okay, so but outside of that, no, he hit the nail on the head. This goes in line with the OP character conversation that we have. But again, we're going to focus on the database here in a second, and why we made it in the entire context behind it. But in regards to that, yeah, it does make the matches a bit dull if, you know, everything is, well, you can't beat my character unless they meet these very specific things that only exist in my verse that we haven't, that you don't discuss, that you don't talk about, that nobody really understands, right? And that's kind of the problem with, and I think Camille was the one that brought it up in the comment section about Silver Age Superman, why they had to make certain changes so that threats can be felt from the characters. Um, I'm a fan of two Power Scaling channels that I've watched. Their brothers, Official Divine and Kazi, and I see a lot of the same kind of terms and jargon thrown around again, Power Scaling community, Power Scaling community. But when we start talking about things like arguing with the narrator or the conceptual beings and these type of things, why would I place what in universe? What is that? What sense does it make? Right. Tell me more about your story so I understand how that works. But yeah, why would I put Blue Morpho against this character if we do a randomizer? Where why would I do that? It does make it hard to kind of participate in those conversations and debates and stuff like that. So again, he hit the nail on the head. Some people came forward who was just like, yeah, why would I get involved in a matchup, or why would I read stories like this? And I think that goes back to why I say the importance of you guys discussing your characters, what your stories are about, what kind of threats, and just all the things that your story is going to entail, more than just how powerful the character is. But the part that I'm really excited about is that we could talk about the database. Um, because when we had this before, it was a lawless wasteland at the time, is what I what I like to call it. Because at the time, we didn't have a standard for power scaling, right? We didn't have a standard or anything like that yet, but we do now. So let's dive into that really quick. So we do have a power system that we could all be able to utilize when discussing our characters. We have two different sections. So again, this is mostly for the new folks here, and anybody that's in here watching, please feel free to comment, chime in, all that good stuff. But we have two different sections. We have the Nexus. Nexus is essentially a short version. If you don't have a book, if you don't have panels to show for your characters and stuff like that, excuse me, yes, if you don't have a published book and you sign up for the database, the Nexus section is for you. Okay. The Reckoning section, obviously the opposite. If you have a published book, that's where we would put your character at. Why the specific thing? It's hard to argue with the character that, again, is some conceptual being that's just an idea that doesn't exist yet, doesn't have a published book, and you still try to figure out what that character is going to do. it's hard to put a character like that against somebody that's got two books and an actual standard and rules to their verse that they can't really break from without breaking the context of their story. It's hard to put those two characters without just saying, "Ah, yeah, it's a wash game overdone." You know. So with that being said, in both there is still a standard in regards to did the stream freeze? Hold on, bear with me. All right, y'all, let me know. Hold on. All right. If y'all can't hear me, if the stream freezes, all that other good stuff, please. Well, if you can't hear me, then you wouldn't hear what I'm saying. But please let me know if there's any issues for those that can hear me that are in here and all that other good stuff. So, with that being said, we do have a power system that, henceforth, we're going to be utilizing. We should have already been utilizing it, but we need to be utilizing in regards to versus matches the database power scale, the indie breakdown indie versus power scaling system that we have. So without further ado, let's talk about it. I created um, essentially this system because, or one of the things that's different about my system versus your general power scaling thing system, you have, I feel like there's a redundancy of my character is a nuclear tier, but then we then go into like the further breakdown of a stat and say, well, this person can lift a car. This person, like it was too much. It was redundant. Is the wording I'm looking for. So I will say like so. Why say he's nuclear power, but then also have specific strength numbers, right? Ah, redundant. So what I did, is create what I call the state of being system. And so we're gonna dive into that really quick, and you guys can ask questions about that. This has already been here. It's been on the site. So for those of you that are familiar, cool beans, what have you. If anything, I'd definitely love for you guys to ask the question, well, where does my character stand in regards to the state of being system, right? And so, here we go. Oh, you're not talking to me. Yeah. So with that being said, and I am blind. Forgive me. Um, I am going to open this up in a different window to see if I can. Hold on. Bear with me, y'all. Let me open the image. Still kind of small, but we'll make it work. So, anyway, as you can see on the screen here, and it might be a little bit blurry, it might be a little what have you, but neither here nor there. Here we go. So, the first thing we have is tier 10, baseline. That is regular people. They don't have powers. They don't really have any stats or abilities, right? So, it goes from I am hearing this weird dinging sound, and I don't know what it is. What up, Spiff? Okay, maybe it's just the messages that's coming through. What's going on, Spiff? So yeah, you don't hear it on the stream. Okay, cool. So yeah, so baseline. It goes from the example I was using before, Foggy Nelson to Batman. Baseline, human. But in regards to this, 10C civilian, and actually I think I do have this copy somewhere because again, my eyes are betraying me here. Hold on. Shut up. All right, hold on. I think I have it in the pins here. So let me uh with that leave page. Let's bear with me, y'all. Let me. Am I bugging? How do I see this? Now I'm turning old here. How do I see? I am looking for. I thought it was in the featured the cards. If it was, I don't see it. I tell you what, I have another idea because there's always I have a backup for everything. Boom. I actually have it in my drive. So it'll be on the screen for you guys to look at. However, I can't see where to be. So let me at Gmail and then log in here. Boom. Oh, hmm. You know what? Valid, valid, valid. No, I made a separate one. No. Okay. I have it on the phone. Bear with me. I'm sorry. I should have been more prepared. Hold on. Let me break down. And then let me get the cards pulled up for you guys. Again, it's on the screen, but I can't see at all. So here is the list. There we go. Praise the Lord. All right. So first we have baseline. 10C, civilian, regular person trying to survive, right? Again, regular, right? 10B is a capable human, skilled and trained, but still human. Again, that's your Punishers. That's your, you know what I'm saying? I was going to say Daredevil, but he's got a little extra going on, right? So again, we'll stick with Punisher in that aspect. And then peak human, master of mind and body. Again, Batman. Again, so although Batman is baseline, he would be 10A, he is still a very capable character. And what we would then do, right? What's going on, Captain Diesel? How you feeling, brother? How have you been? And congratulations on your book, by the way. Congrats on that. Um, Let me pull this up. So right now, anybody that might be new here might be just seeing this from the Midnight Comics channel. We have another brand that's loosely connected called the Indie Breakdown. Started off as a podcast. We interview people, talk about which Captain Diesel we need to get together on this. Where we talk about your character's power stats and abilities and get them ready for an indie versus matchup. The show has been on hiatus, and I had taken a break from the group, but you came at a really good time because we're actually talking about our power scaling system that I developed specifically for indie characters that I believe can also be utilized in the mainstream. That's not as convoluted, in my opinion. So, anywho, all the stuff is on screen. Again, lettering might seem a little small, what have you, but check out indiebreakdown.com. You'll be able to see all that stuff under the database. Appreciate it. Oh yeah. Okay. Appreciate it, my man. Been good. That's good to hear. And again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, everybody. Hope everybody's being safe and having a good time. But back to the matter at hand, right? So just because, again, Batman is at the lowest tier of baseline doesn't negate whatever skills, again, strength, intelligence, durability, agility, energy projection, fight ability, and speed, all of that stuff is what's going to determine, how crazy or strong or whatever the character might be. Ralph, what's going on, dude? So with that being said, again, this is in regards to the indie breakdown. I want everybody that is participating, whether you're in the database or not, I want you guys to take a look at our power scaling system and incorporate that, because that's the standard that we're going to be utilizing so that we are on an equalized footing, right? So that if somebody, again, we went over baseline just now, and I may or may not go through each one of the tiers again. I feel like it's very simple here, but tier one, conceptual beings, right? Why would I put Batman against Eternity? That's you know what I mean? Like in those cases, like no. However, right, a Batman character could fight against, or you could pit against a potential transcendent being, or a mythic being, or a dimensional being in a cute story, right? Batmite pops up all the time, or you have character. What was it in Injustice? Mxyzptlk versus the Spectre, right? You can have these characters that scale kind of lower go against these stronger characters because it's not about in regards to tiering them with our system. It doesn't matter if it does matter to an extent, but it doesn't matter necessarily if the person is meta powers or mutant. What's the difference in our system? Meta powers, you're born with it. Excuse me, meta powers is an accident that happens, like Flash or any of these other, or Spider Man or what have you, versus a mutant, a character that's born with it, right? It can go either way because what are their specific strengths and abilities? Again, state of being system that we have here isn't completely just my person can level a mountain, your person can only level a town, automatically it's written off. No, because what we're trying to do is dive into the nuance of your character, the nuance of what it is they can do, how they operate. And so when we do versus matches, or at least we were earlier this year, there would always be, well, where is it taking place? So if you have two hero characters going against each other and you're in the middle of Metropolis, I'm expecting you when you're discussing how your character is going to overcome this battle, you're at the very base level. We know your character is a hero, and we know you're in a populated city. So when we see responses that say, I would just nuke the entire place to get rid of my opponent. You would kill all of these civilians and your opponent that you don't know is a villain in order to win the fight. That's not what we're looking for. We want to see how do you actually think through with the limited information that you have, 'cause just like in these cartoons, movies, and shows, right? You think about shows and like Invincible and stuff like that. These split second decisions. What can this character do? I don't know anything about it. How do I overcome this? Right? But also looking through things through a lens that doesn't there's no plot armor, obviously, right? So no, your character can't just do it because I said they can do it, right? There has to be a reason behind it. No longer do we need to be hiding behind the concept thing. I like how he pointed that out, where my person is this concept, this person exists or expands throughout the universe and can't do this, it can't do that. That means different things for too many different things. If we're not willing to dive deeper, or you're not willing to talk about your character throughout the week and really give us an intricate idea about what that entails, then yeah, who wants to participate in that? Who wants to have those discussions and talk about it and all those other good things? But anyway, back to the database. Um, Again, a baseline character like we discussed, like a Batman or what have you, in the case of an indie character, he could have energy projection. He could have a ridiculous fight ability. All these things can be valid, but what are they intrinsically or just in their natural state is what our state of being system entails. Again, if your character was born with powers, then you would be looking at a tier seven. My character, if they're human and born with powers, let me preface that. If they're human and born with powers, then yeah, they would be a mutant character, not to be confused or maybe to be put in line with the X-Men, right? They obviously are mutants. That works with our tiering system. Spider-Man would not be because he got it from an accident, right? Where would a character like Cyborg or RoboCop be, right? That would be an enhanced character. They're given upgrades and all these different extra equipment to go or enhancements to go on their bodies. Misty Knight would be a part of that. She's got a metal arm, right? Freaking Winter Soldier would be just that as well, scientifically enhanced, right? Same thing again. He doesn't have any. I mean, he has the super soldier serum and stuff like that. So one would argue, well, where would I put him between tier nine and tier eight? Again, I would probably say tier nine because it was on purpose, right? Meta power is 9 times out of 10 in regards to this. It's something that's an almost accidental situation. But again, wherever your characters fall in that, this is the standard that we want to follow in here. And gosh, again, I am so excited to see that post which you guys actually having the opportunity to discuss that because it can get frustrating. It can. And to be completely honest, it's kind of one of the reasons why I did take a step back because I didn't know how else to communicate effectively what we're looking for, right? Um, if there's two, and I think he used an example very similar to what I like to use. Like I don't want to see which one is stronger, the planet or the one that controls the verses, and we're just doing this. I don't. That's not fun. It's not fun, right? So what is it like? Again, we have some writing prompts ideas that are really going to kind of um, test your creativity, right? Thank you. Test your mic, right? Like really do more than just I'm gonna punch harder, right? I want to know, right? I want to a match that I do personally want to see. I would love to see a Vibrant versus Atlas, right? These characters are both really awesome looking. They both have some very cool powers and stuff like that. But how would they defeat one another? Now again, outside of hero v hero, let's talk about any villains, which is lacking, I think, in general in the database. We do want to see more villains appear. That not to say there's not any villains in there, but I think a lot of the matches end up being hero versus hero, and we have this general idea of what we expect a hero to be able to do. They're going to overcome anything that comes their way, and they've already gone through this journey where they've overcome the impossible. So somebody that's not the impossible can't defeat my character, right? There's a sense of pride and ideas that we know what our characters can do. But one of the things I like to always say when we're talking about our characters or when we put them up for a versus match, I always want us to utilize the version of our character that exists now, right? What is the version of your character that we're going to see in issue one? This is for the people that don't have books. What are we going to see in issue one? And of course, for those that have books, well, where are they at this point in their story? The example I always bring up and utilize is when Dragon Ball drops in the mid 80s, right? You have Kid Goku. He doesn't know the Kamehameha wave. He's got some basic martial arts training. He doesn't have the Nimbus. He's got a power pole. And best feats is he's breaking boulders with ease, able to survive gunshots, and able to lift up a car, right? But what we're not going to do, right, is say, well, I know in 20 years, 20, 30 years, he's going to have Ultra Instinct and battle the gods. That's irrelevant right now. Or that's not a thing that truly exists right now. This is still an idea, right? Again, when we don't have books and stuff yet, we're just now initially creating these characters and stuff. Yeah, there's still a lot of things to now. Yeah, in your case, Father Evil exists. In your case, Father Evil exists. He's a character that's appeared. He's a character that is mentioned. He's a character whose feats have been discussed. Dare I say at length. So in your case, absolutely. Um, in my case, one of my villain characters or antagonist characters are here on the thing in the form of Anubis, right? Anubis is a character. He's there. We've seen him honestly go easy on Soul, so the upper echelons of his ability have not been showcased, right? But I can only use, or I'm limited, right? If I'm going to be follow my own rules here, I can only utilize the feats that have been showcased within the context of my story. So could Anubis beat Betrayus as it stands right now? Again, the reason why I don't do Nexus versus Reckoning is because Betrayus can still be anything. Anubis has rules because he's in the story and has only showcased X amount of things that he can actually do. Um, can Anubis beat Atridian? From what I know of Atridian and the power that he gets from a being that would predate Anubis and would be higher in the echelon if we were to equalize everything, no, no, he wouldn't, right? But going based on, but that's easier because they would both be in reckoning. They both have comic book appearances. They both have feats. They have things that we can look at and confirm. Atridian has done way more in story than Anubis has done in story, and he gets his power from a being. Again, if we're equalizing, and of course, we've had the opportunity to chat with Ralph about what the Sword of Justice is, and how old that being is, and how much power has accumulated and is able to be utilized by the Sword of Justice. There was God, the Sword of Justice. God, I'm pretty sure is the top, and then there was the Sword of Justice, and then Father Evil are the that's the next rung. And so if I'm to equalize that in hierarchy, without spoiling anything, Anubis falls well below that type of hierarchy. So in regards to state of being, the sword of justice through Atridian already has a leg up. And then when we start looking at feats within the story, Atridian has more impressive showings than Anubis does, right? So Trey says, and let me put this on the screen as well. If a character has a lot of powers, there's no way to effectively put every single power in one issue. That should not negate the fact that the those that have those extra powers. Absolutely valid. However, however, there is a very simple way to quantify that, right? So, characters in Dragon Ball. Everybody's watched Dragon Ball, so I'll utilize that a lot. Or Naruto, right? I'll utilize these examples a lot. In Dragon Ball, Vegeta's got the Gallic Gun, Big Bang Attack, Final Flash. Goku's got what? The Kamehameha Wave, the Spirit Bomb, the Tien, Tri Beam, Dodon Ray, right? I'm listing a lot of things, but what's the thing that they have in common? They all utilize key, energy projection. I don't need a list of 50 billion things in order to say they can shoot energy blast. You know what I mean? Now, whatever that is called in your verse, you can say that and maybe hone in on it. Like if I have um 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 in our universe, for the unbeloved, they utilize a system called essence, and through that, they are able to utilize telepathy, telekinesis, and in some cases, very few characters that we dive in specifically with can utilize energy projection. Telepathy, telekinesis, energy projection. I just put that next to essence. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not a dissertation of the powers. Is there nuance to the character and their powers? Yes, but there is a way for us to simplify what a character can do. Um, oops, there we go. But it's we should be able to, because we know we're the creators of our characters, right? So we should know how to give a very simple explanation of these powers without um, overwhelming our future community and fans, right? Again, Naruto, oh, Shadow Clone Jutsu, Rasengan, Chidori, Lightning Blade, same damn thing, right? Reanimation Jutsu, all of these jutsus, they utilize chakra, right? And so you don't have to give a dissertation about the names of the abilities if you can just give a general response of, hey, they're able to utilize energy projection. Hey, they're able to, use their energy to increase their strength. Like that's the nuance stuff that we want to hear throughout the week. Hey, he utilizes energy projection in this way because just because you know, just because most of the turtle school knows how to utilize a Kamehameha wave doesn't mean everybody knows how to utilize the insert move, right? Because I guess that's the only that's the turtle school's claim to fame, right? Not everybody uses the spirit ball attack, right? That's a Yamcha exclusive, but it still uses ki, right? So it's just like there is potential, there is creativity, there is nuance to a particular character's utilization of an ability. But when generally talking about what that ability is, you can simplify it. You don't have to say, "Oh, he can do," right? Let's go to a Tritian because we brought him up a second ago, right? A Tritian can do a lot. Okay, a Tritian can do a lot of things, especially powered through the Sword of Justice and having the abilities of those past wielders as well. But at the end of the day, didn't know there was a lot going on. Don't worry, you didn't miss too terribly much. We did kind of go over that we want to utilize the database definitively, right? And even if you don't have a character in the database, we want everybody to utilize the power scaling system of the database so that we have an easier time um, equalizing everything. That's pretty much all you miss. And now we're getting ready to utilize a Trinian as an example to Trey's question or Trey's statement here. And I'll put it back on the screen really quick as I read it. He said, if a character has a lot of powers, there's no way to effectively put every single power in one issue. That should not negate the fact, essentially, that they have those extra powers. You're absolutely correct. But what's hard, right? If, again, I'll use my characters as an example, right? I'll use what we've been able to do as an example. So has the power of two Egyptian deities, Amun and Ra, right? Uh, Ra was the god of the sun. So obviously, it's inferred that Sol has the abilities to manipulate and utilize the properties of the sun. Do I need to write down everything that entails? No. But if I'm going to have to utilize my book and showcase the feats and showcase the upper echelon of his powers as it stands right now, then that's all I can do. I can't say in issue 18, right, he's going to also utilize the abilities of Amon, which he had air properties, and he's going to utilize the air in a massive scale that's going to help defeat the. I didn't showcase that yet in canon, right? We knew that Goku was a monkey boy, and we knew that he was going to learn. Excuse me, Toriyama knew that he was going to do more with the character after he was pressured by the editor to move forward past the first season. But when it turned into a fighting show, he knew that he was going to evolve the character at some point, right? He did not have to list everything that he wanted him to do seasons from then, or so at the end of the season. He didn't need to list that. We knew that he was stronger than the average human. He knew that he was able to utilize an ability that put forth their fighting energy, their fighting spirit into the form of what was eventually called or what became known as the Kamehameha Wave, right? Like, we don't have to list an ungodly amount of extra powers. What's going on, Chris? How you feeling, man? We are talking about the indie breakdown right now in our database system and the power scaling system that I've created in trying to help kind of indie creators basically power scale indie characters. And I think I've been able to create something that works for mainstream characters as well. So we're kind of going over that and talking about specifically how you would be able to, man, I'm popular right now. Hold on. Everybody in their mama calling me. Hold on. No, that was Mike right now. Yeah, I know. All right. Um, So hope everything's going well, Chris. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Big shout out to Blurred's Eye View. They're over there killing it and stuff like that. So that's another, side thing. There are a lot of podcasts. There are a lot of people for you guys to reach out to and meet to get your stories and stuff out there and just talk about your creative process. Blurred's Eye View is one of those. So please head on over there, check in with them, watch their show in general, subscribe to their channel, Blurred's Eye View. But like, get out there more so than just what we've been doing in here, right? The fights are cool, but like we say during the week, we want to hear more about your story, your character, and through that, and through those interactions and conversations, um, people get to know you, right? And so I think it'd be fantastic for you guys to message Chris through Bloods Review and all that good stuff and get on their shows when they come back from holiday and all of that. Then the battle state that the area they're in pushes the characters to their absolute max. Yeah, absolutely. And I want to give grace to Chenadu's post, right? Um, um, Xanadu wanted to make a match, right? And we invite everybody to do that with the matches and stuff like that. However, um, I could say by the time Xanadu had joined the group, and gosh, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I'm pretty sure I am. By the time Xanadu joined the match, I had already started falling back a little bit to kind of not necessarily just restructure, but just kind of get my mind right because it was just like I keep explaining it, but maybe I'm not saying this accurately. Maybe I'm not saying this properly. What we're expecting, what we're hoping for, so that we can have these matches kind of go kind of flawlessly and people feel comfortable to have these things. So yes, absolutely. He did say he wanted them to push them to their absolute max. But again, the problem with that is what is that exactly? If the starting point of a character is absolute omniscience and authority over the multiverse, what is the ending of a character that honestly doesn't end? That they are a conceptual being, right? If they already are everything by the end, what is the max, right? Trey says, I think that's a little different because those Dragon Ball Z characters didn't have those abilities at the moment of the original conception, correct? And those abilities didn't exist yet, correct? They evolved into that as the series went on. Versus as the indie creator, already setting up the power list from the jump. All right, so that goes back to, and you might not have been in here when I brought this up, but I have always said that we want the version of your character that exists right now. What is the character that we're going to get in issue one? If you don't have a book, because again, we have two sides of this. We have the Nexus and we have the Reckoning. If you're in Nexus and you don't have a book, what is the version that we're going to get in experience in issue one? No. Are they going to be the end all be all? Are they going to be the best version of this character? Hell no. Not at all, right? But even still, and this is why we were on Atridian, right? Atridian has access and the knowledge because the knowledge is passed down to each of the people that have the sword of justice and become the sword of justice, right? So there's the sword of justice, the entity and the provider of the power, but then there's also the avatar, if you would, the sword of justice, right? Think about like the Green Lantern, right? The Green Lanterns aren't the ring, they're not the power battery, but they're an avatar of that energy and power and stuff like that. There's nothing else to realize but utilizing their willpower to do more with what's given to them. And so that's what we want to know about these cases. That's it. A Green Lantern is able to make constructs with imagination and willpower. There's not. We don't need the list of. They can make a machine gun. They can make a robot. They can make missiles. They can make a boxing glove. They can make. We don't need that. He can make constructs, and it's powered by his imagination and willpower. The end. Right? And so even still, we have seen characters bypass the rules of the ring. We've seen these characters do, so much more with these rings, where they may have even had an innate power. I forget the character's name, but there's this Green Lantern that fought against Superboy Prime during Infinite Crisis, right? But he was like a cousin race to Kryptonian. So even without the ring, he was a ridiculously strong character. And that we don't even have to list, oh, he has super strength, blah, 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 because that's what the number stat is for, right? How strong is it, right? But even that state of being thing, we go back to the state of being. He is this, and then his equipment is a Green Lantern ring, and everything that's inferred with that, right? So my comments are flashing like crazy. What's going on with that? How's it going? And congrats, the official announcement. I'm glad that that's finally out there. That you joined the Concrete Crew. That is exciting to see how Solar is going to be placed in verse, and the potential crossovers that'll come from that. So very excited for that, and a big shouts out to you. But yeah, So back to what you were saying, Trey. Yeah, the characters evolve, and that's wonderful. But if we saw Goku when he first came out, and we had trading cards of Goku when he first came out, those trading cards would not include the version of Goku that fought against Beerus, because, to your point, they didn't exist yet. The characters evolve. That comes with time, right? And so if that's not a thing that exists yet, if that's not a thing that we're going to experience in this issue one, um, personally, I don't want it because things change. When I tell you there were versions of our characters, so no, kind of spoilery, but when we were early in our development for our series, there was a desire. I think I'm going to say this right without spoiling anything. There was a desire to connect everything, but certain things just don't work, right? I can't have a character that is um I use an example of the Human Torch. Oh, bet we got the Human Torch. He's got these fire abilities. Hell yeah, let's get it. And he got it from a scientific accident. But down the line, we decide in that same story with that same origin story, we decide, you know what? He got his powers from the God of Fire. Is it the accident or is it the God of Fire? Pick one. Can they eventually down the line be an avatar for sure if you want to go that route and so on and so forth? But there was such a desire to connect all of these different characters, all these different stories, and it didn't work. So yeah, will the character evolve? Are there plot points that we want to experience? We'll have our characters experience, like absolutely, but that might not happen. That might not be the case. Those things might not come to pass. So give us what is. Give us the thing that's solid that you know for a fact. In your case, right? Kosis. Issue one Kosis. What is he like? What can we expect when we meet Kosis? Why should we pick up this issue one? What is he doing? I think I remember a picture where he was saving somebody. There's a burning building or something in the background. Like, okay, neighborhood hero. He's going in. He's handling business. Boom, 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 boom. You know what I'm saying? What is the version that we're getting in that initial issue? Boy, shut your ass up. Shut up. Oh, no, Thomas said betrayers the streets here. Shut up. But no, but right. What can the characters do, right? So if we see the images of betrayers that have been posted, right? He's casually in space. Okay, obviously this man ain't no human, right? Humans don't breathe in space, right? So he's floating there out in the cosmos, unbothered, right? And so there's certain things that we can infer from the character. So if Betrays gets hit by a regular car and gets hurt by that, I got questions. Because you're able to survive re-entry, assuming you're just leaving planets casually without anything, tells me you should be also able to re-enter a planet. So if he gets hit by a regular car, I got questions. Right. So I want you guys to be able to think about your characters in a way or understand your characters enough to where you have these rules and you should already have rules for your characters and verse. Um, that don't break the moment we start talking about versus matches. Again, the example that I continue to use is if we have your characters go against each other, and all we know is that they're both hero characters, and we place you in the middle of Metropolis, why is it the first idea is I'm going to nuke my entire surroundings in order to defeat this villain? You just killed everybody around you. How do you write this scenario and overcome the danger? We see Dragon Ball characters do it all the time on the very baseline. Let's go somewhere. They try to convince the villain, hey, let's go somewhere that's less populated. Right? They don't really dive in heavy, right? This is Dragon Ball, it's a fight thing, whatever. We don't really care about that. But at the very least, it's a concept that came up. Let's go somewhere less populated so that nobody that has nothing to do with this, right, gets hurt. And whether the villain cares or not, because Dr. Earl just started blasting everybody like, hey, there's nothing around us, right? I got it. Like, he doesn't care, right? But again, to the point, right? Back to what we were saying anyway. I kind of went on a tangent and I'm gonna read Dre's thing comment. Um, yeah, characters will evolve. But what's the version of Kosis for you specifically? What's the version of Kosis we're going to experience in issue one? What is the version of Kosis that exists for you right now? My version of Soul now versus my version of Soul when we first started, two completely different characters. Two completely different characters. The motivations are different. What he's done, what he's going to do, completely different characters, right? And so again, that's why I want what is that as close to finalized version character that we're going to experience at the beginning of his journey. Again, Saitama is beginning of episode one to Saitama now, completely different dude. He evolved. Does he have any martial arts training? Well, not until that, brief little stint with that. He's just that strong. He just throws a simple punch, right? There's an evolution, there's a concept, there's a nuance to that type of writing because he's not even. Anyway, that's a whole nother tangent. Let me go back to Dre's thing. Hell, Pantheon issue 1. Um, he doesn't have powers. You only see the power he will come to wield. And showcased by other gods, other gods. Wonderful, right? And so when that hits, when that comes out, like obviously, no, I'm not going to be like, hey, canon version of Pantheon versus Betrayers, Tapestry, on the top of my mind right now. I'm not putting Pantheon versus Betrayers. Even if we do issue 1 be issue 1, no. Obviously, at that point, Betrayers win, right? But that's not a ding on your story. That's not a ding on your character. It's just opportunity for your character to grow. And whether that character gets to that strength level or not, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, all this is wonderful exposure and fun, but it's wonderful personally. Again, I love I personally love street tier characters. So I was excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier. So I was excited for Hawkeye. I probably was least excited for Loki, but again, and yeah, so that's a whole nother conversation. But it's like once you get to a certain point in upper echelons for some of these characters, it's like well, what are you gonna do? What more can we do with certain characters? Whereas these characters that are woefully outmatched, right? How are they going to overcome it? I think that was the allure of Batman back in the day because he's Batman, right? He's a regular guy amongst the guys. He got money and gadgets. But what does that do in the face of an unstoppable force? How does Batman overcome this situation? That's what makes that character exciting. But they another side tangent that could become a whole nother video in line and conversation in and of itself. But I think Batman has lost that allure personally, not speaking for everybody else. He was just a guy that had to try to overcome these circumstances. And in some stories, they do go back to that, and that's what makes a good Batman story. Everybody almost rolls their eyes now, when it's like the one issue when he came falling from space and he survives that. It's just like, okay, well, why am I worried if this gonna get hit by a crowbar? Like re-entry again is a whole nother type of force. Him getting hit by a crowbar at this point, whatever Joker throws at him, get it out of here. Get it out of here. Pack him up. But no, to your point, right? Exactly, though, Dre. Um, Dre also said the version of Grave you get in issue 1, um, he gets his brains blown out. Right, but there's a lead up, right? We get to see a little bit of his history, so we know what it is he can do, right? We can see what it is that he's able to do. So if we put an early version of Grave against a if we put an early version of Grave against Punisher, right? We put him up against a Captain America. Like you have good arguments. You have good, you know what I'm saying? Like we know what the skills are, right? Put Grave against Pinpoint. Like you have okay. These guys are military guys. How long were they in the military? What are their favorite weapons? What are these type of things? And you can infer some of these skills. Well, what if you're a part of the army? You learn X, right? You go to trainings. You go to this. You go to that. You can infer those things, and then okay, well, let's talk about what the character has done in story. What are the accolades that he has in story? You're talking about they called him in for a specific job, right? Or he had these certain things happen, or he was on a team, and all these other things. Like you can put these things together that you guys tell us all throughout the week, right? Um, and we can us as the community, us as the viewers, us as the potential fans and readers can then start asking actual nuanced questions about what it is the character could do, and actually kind of invest in each other's stories and characters and what it is they could do outside, like how they joked about Goku in the Team Four Star, the bridge version, right? We could punch him really hard together, right? Like like it's funny, but like again, like we know the character is more than just that. However, on the surface level, it feels like that. Give us the former here. Give us the more that we're looking for from your character, right? Again, Atridian is crazy powerful, crazy strong, but we get to see the family dynamic. We get to see his strong sense of justice, and it reflects in his job. He's an officer, right? So he didn't get this mindset of heroism and what justice is because he got the powers. He had that prior to, right? And so we now understand the choices he makes throughout the story. We understand why he moves with the powers the way that he does, why he decided not to do all of this alone, understanding that he needs a team behind him so that everybody could work together to, anyway, not to spoil the story, but there was more to just I have the power to do what I need to do, and then he just does it, right? There's more character behind it than just punching hard, than just blasting whatever evil away. There's more to it. All right, so moving on. Have a six, bro. An old lady with a purse can knock out betrays. They have so much stuff in those dang purses anyway. Trey says the first book he's only using 10%. He won't find out about that until the sixth book. That's when he'll be using all of his powers in defense. I already got those scripts written. I just haven't had the books drawn. It calls and life be life. Perfect. But Deku had no powers in his first episode, right? Then he eventually gets the power, and then he breaks his arm just to punch a robot, right? If that's as strong as he is, bet. But if Batman got hit by that punch unexpectedly, Batman's cooked, right? He doesn't know who he is. He does it. He got one good hit. He does that. Deku had a big target in that initial, showing of that ability, right? So okay, whatever he might miss, and then that's a wrap, right? But I think the point is, right? Tell me your story. Tell me the story. Deku never got to 100% of One For All. I think it's stated or inferred that he only reached 45% and used Fajin and all those other abilities to mimic what a 100% would look like. But the quirk proper never was at 100%. So he never became a fully realized version. We never fully realized One For All within his own, with his tenure with it, right? And that's okay. They still were able to tell a powerful story, and he still wasn't able to utilize the power at 100%. Now tell me what Kosis can do with 10, so that we can think about, imagine, contemplate, discuss. Well, if he could do that at 10, or in Deku's case, if he could do that at 45, can you imagine how crazy he would be at 100%? He's already surpassed Prime All Might. So what is he doing, man? If he had 100%, boy, there'd be no need for any other hero because he would. Boom, 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 boom. That's fun conversation, right? But then again, what did he do? What was he able to accomplish? We got a whole series of what he was able to accomplish without fully realizing the power that he had. That's okay, right? So yeah, if all he's got is 10%, I want to know what that 10% entails. That's it. And again, that doesn't take away whatever that 10% of power that Kosis has. Tell me what the power is. What is Kosis's power? And if he could only utilize that 10%, bet. But that gives me something to look forward to. Damn, if he's able to use, I'm gonna use K Urameshi, Yu Yu Hakusho, right? He can only use Spirit Gun what, once a day, 2 times a day? Initially. And then when you see him training, he gets the shotgun, he gets all these things. Matter of fact, in the Dark Tournament, when they had those freaking spirit cuffs on him and he broke it, and he got even stronger and stuff like that. Like there was so much like, damn, he can only use it 1 or 2 times. Oh, he's been holding himself back this whole time. Oh. Like there was something to be excited about. There was something to worry about because at the end of the day, he still, at the time, was a regular guy to our understanding. Obviously, we didn't get to the end of the series where you find out he's a descendant of a demon. But prior to that, this nigga's a regular guy. And he could shoot beams out of his finger once or twice a day. Whoa! How the hell is he going to get out of here? How is he going to get over this threat of these demons that have been around for hundreds of years? Oh, his friend can make an energy sword. They're in middle school. How are they going to overcome this? And you sit at the edge of your seat every week, waiting to see what happens. Because you're like, I truly don't know how. Now, mix in some plot armor, and the story must go on, and they overcome. But 9 times out of 10, they do give a valid reason why this character survives, how they overcame, and that's why those shows are great, legendary, right? At this point. So if that's all he's at is 10%, okay, if he's 10% for the whole damn series, I want to see how he overcomes his threats. That's amazing. He can't do it all. Perfect. The hero shouldn't be able to do it all immediately. I think about Superman. That was the other example. I use Goku a lot, but I talk about Superman also. Um, Superman couldn't fly initially, right? Superman's flight ability came as an accident, if I remember correctly, came from an accident or a mistake from the radio show. He was able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. He was more powerful than locomotive. He was faster than a speeding bullet. Nowhere near was flight. Right. So again, back to your point. They evolved. All these things happened. Eventually, they took Superman in a whole nother direction. I think somebody said, Camille again said, Silver Age, this man could just do anything. Um, and that's when it declined. Oh, if he could do anything, okay. That's why they had to revamp the character, right? Give him some weaknesses, give him all these other issues to deal with to bring him back down the scale a little bit, because again, we've kind of reached these crazy antics again in regards to characters in mainstream, right? But again, they don't have to ever achieve full power. They don't ever have to be this final form. They can just be where they are, and that's okay too. Anyway, I think I'm belaboring the point here. Um, let's move on. Let's see. Ba-da-da-da-ba, ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba. Keep questions and comments coming, please. All right. So, Smith says, I feel like indie creators have the biggest advantage when writing comics because mainstream comics are written by multiple people. You scale down the scale of characters in an inconsistent manner compared to indie creators who most of the time stick to their character's lane because there's only one or two writers on a project, so it's more consistent. Yeah, can't argue with that. Can't argue with that at all. Um, Not Avery Rose laughing at the Deku. I'll hit you with facts later on. Let me park this truck for now. Yeah, all right, brother. Well, thanks for coming through for sure. Mike, what's going on, bro? I can tell a person. Hold on. Dre says I can tell a person book by book, arc by arc, what Pantheon goes through, and how he evolves, and how he doesn't actually start off with all his powers. He actually only starts off with super strength, flight, super speed, and that's the version of Pantheon I want, right? You know, I know out the gate, and obviously we've had this conversation, we've talked, right? Out the gate, we're not getting the, like the breakdown video, we're not getting the passive perception abilities, we're not getting any of that. He has strength like super speed. I want to know, feet wise, in panel, book to book, right? How far does that super strength go? Is he just lifting up cars? Is he mountain busting? Is he, punching so hard that entire islands or maybe even countries are getting wiped off the map? Tell me what that looks like. Tell me what that looks like. So Mike said, "Oh my God, this is exactly what I'm working on right now." Listen, let's get on the line. Let's talk about it. But yeah, we have a whole. So one of the things I think we might have talked about this passively, bro. We have created a power scaling system. That at the very least in this group, we want to make the standard. This is the standard of how we power scale indie characters. It's my state of being system, power system. More on that in a little bit. But let's. I want. You know what? I did see the call. I apologize. Obviously, I was on this live. But yeah, I definitely want to chat with you a little bit about that. But yeah, um, like it's not spoilery to tell us what the character can do. Yes, they will evolve. They will have specific things that happen to them. But we knew Luke Skywalker could use the Force. We know he can utilize the lightsaber, right? Now, how deep that goes or how much he evolves and stuff like that, okay, cool. But what is the Force? Tell me what the Force is. And then we can start asking those questions. What can he do? Well, is he able to just lift rocks, or is he able to lift up buildings? Is he able to move star destroyers? Is he able to like let's then dive into those nuances and ask those deeper questions that way. But I don't need this. Kind of goes back to what Trey was asking a little while ago, right? But we don't need a list of with the force he does this, with the force he does that, with the force he does this. He has the force. What does the force do? Okay, bet. And then that goes back to and I'll go to it now while we have a moment here. While we have a moment, boom, which leads me back to the state of being thing, right? And not even the state of being thing, we're talking about specific stats, which leads me back to here. So we have the state of being tier system, whether you're, and then go back to it, whether you're baseline, enhanced, you have meta powers, you're a mutant, supernatural, ascendant, transcendent, mythic, dimensional, conceptual, right? Tell us where they are here, right? And again, just because the tier is higher than one another doesn't mean the character automatically scales above that. Again, example, right? Excellent breakdown, man. Thank you, Demario, and shout out to Demario right quick. This guy is like the example of what indie needs right now in regards to community and fans. He reads the books, he lets the people know he read the books, and he talks about the things that he likes and recommends indie books to people. So, man, you are a massive help to the community. We truly appreciate you, bro. And please keep doing what you're doing, man, with the reviews and all that good stuff, bro. So example that I used earlier in regards to Meta Powers and Mutant. Just because Meta Powers is tier 8 and Mutant is tier 7, sure, numbers wise, Mutant's looking good. It's closer to that number one spot, right? However, what's the difference between the two? Metahumans again, or Meta Powers is just in regards to our tiering system, is somebody that accidentally got the powers. That's the baseline of it, right? Versus a mutant, somebody born with the powers. Somebody born with powers versus somebody that accidentally got powers does not mean the person born with it is automatically stronger than the person that got it through an accident. Right? Flash got his joints by accident. He's still faster than Superman, right? He's still faster than Wonder Woman, right? So it's not necessarily, you know, you know, Supernatural is tier 6, but you're not going to tell me that Zatanna is stronger than Superman. So it doesn't matter necessarily. Obviously, when you get to conceptual beings, now one can argue, right? Um, but really, a lot of these other beings can be defeated, can be stopped, so on and so forth. Um, Again, Superboy Prime. I saw Superboy just now, so that Dre, and I'll put your comment up there in a second. Superboy Prime punched through reality in Infinite Crisis, right? And although one of the Supermen died in Infinite Crisis, right? They stuck in the fight for a little while. Somebody that was able to punch through realities, right? So, like, anyway, it was going to be a tangent. It was going to be a tangent. Let's get back to brass tacks here. All right. Switch this. Like with Adax, he is a Gdax, but can hang with people higher than his tier base off his skill and tactics. He literally picks them apart by psychologically dismantling them. Perfect. Cool. Wonderful. Right? And so, sake of conversation, um, you don't need to add anything else. You don't have to give me a whole nother list of anything else. Right? He is this warrior, this soldier, this being that's able to do this. That. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what he's able to do right now. And I'm sure throughout the course of his story, he's gonna step up. He's gonna learn more. He's gonna do more. Right now, when Adax drops, when that first issue drops, that iteration of that character that's there, when you go into versus matches, that's the version that needs to be discussed. Not the man. 20 years from now, man, this character's gonna be crazy, right? Uh, yeah, no problem, Mario. All right, Nathan. Hey, again, thank you for that post. Um, this was needed. We can only say it so many times, and it is such a breath of fresh air for somebody else to also see it, have been experiencing it, and finally just say, "Damn it, here's my thoughts on it." So thank you for that. Thank you for that post and all the comments that came with it. I think it's imperative um, for everybody to read through it in full, right? A lot of good information there. A lot of valid complaints, not gripes, not that gripes is a bad word or anything like that, but valid critiques of what is happening within the group, what's frustrating people, and what people want to see more of. And honestly, it's good to see that we're not alone in what we've been saying and feeling about some of the matchups and some of the discussions that's happened. Right. So thank you again. Anyway, that's a believe that point. Dre says, Superboy level at first, and remembers he only thinks that's what he can do. And though he is eventually a cosmic celestial by lineage, he's a mixed kid from Atlanta who's trying to do right and what his parents raised him to be. His first battle against Incendiary, Pantheon loses. Yeah. Remember when Metal Cooler grabbed Vegeta by the mouth? Yeah. Jesus Christ. Poor Vegeta. Shouts out to that boy. Yeah, Incendiary lets off a nuke. Right. So, again, again, we get to see this character evolve, right? He is not this fully realized cosmic celestial yet. So initially, right, we're seeing him lose against somebody that's setting off power equivalent to that of a nuke, right? Put this guy against Invincible. Yeah, I mean, like if we're gonna scale 1 to 1, right, with mainstream or something like that, like let's put him against put him against some of these characters again. I'll start relating it more to database stuff in a moment, right? But I'd put Pantheon against Alexandria the Great. That battle makes sense. Again, there's these initial iterations. Now that I know about Bolt, I'll be damned if I'm putting anybody against Bolt at this point besides Betrays. I'm like, whoa, he is a ridiculously powerful being. Whoa, I didn't know. Because image wise, and I only really see him utilizing electrical powers. I'm like, man, put him next to Black Lightning, Static Shot. Put him on that kind of street tier where it's not, I say street tier, that's a whole nother conversation in regards to tiering and all that other stuff. But like, he didn't look like he was a dimensional universal being, right? And nothing from what I saw prior to that conversation that took place during the tournament that we did a little while back, nothing told me that that character was that type of character, that powerful. Um, and so again, the importance of you guys giving us those deep dives into what these characters can do, what they experience, the things that they like, all of those things, so that when these versus matches happen, one, the common and again, not everybody's going to catch every post and see everything every time, be able to like and comment and do these questions and stuff. But I think the consistency is what we're looking for in regards to purposeful posting. If you guys are consistently telling us about what makes your character them, more and more people become fans of these characters so that then somebody can come at you the way they came at me, like, nah, you put Bolt in the wrong spot, buddy. Bolt is, and I'm like, well, shit, I didn't know, bro. Appreciate you putting me on. Well, damn, Bolt is going to wash the competition because he's Timothy, So anyway, back to Pantheon. Yeah. So to your point, we get to see the way that Pantheon overcomes his threats. We get to see the struggles and stuff that he's going to go through on his way to, again, not spoiler because it's right here now, right? We get to see his journey into being a cosmic celestial, but he isn't one right now. I mean, so at this point in the series, he doesn't think he's much stronger than, to what Dre said in comparison, a Superboy level character. And I'm assuming not Superboy Prime. We're talking about Superboy, leather jacket, first appearance, 90s Young Justice, Superboy, right? Um, Still insanely powerful in the face of common man, right? But not the most powerful badass known to known to the universe, right? That can do it all. There's still obvious threats. There's still obviously ways that he can be overwhelmed at this point in time. Dre also says Pantheon doesn't know how to use his powers, even though he has the God of knowledge within him. But most kids don't listen to adults. They rather just grow up on their own. Ashton doesn't really listen to them. Right. And so now we're going to see a level of maturity and emotional intelligence that happens throughout the course of the story because the story is more than just how powerful he is. And so again, these are the fun facts that I'm seeing in this live right now. These are the fun facts I want throughout the week. And obviously, Dre, you do this play, so no, but everybody else, this is what. And again, not fair to obviously Tony Brown, you do a fantastic job with that. Nathan does a fantastic job. Plenty of you guys do a fantastic job giving us these looks into your characters, right? But I only really see like 6 or 7. There's 6,000 of us. And whether you're sharing a fact about your favorite character, again, this is not a mandatory thing, but it's stuff that we would like to see, right? I don't know all the indie characters out there. I want to know more about the indie characters out there. I think that was the one of the big parts of this for me is learning about what exists out there. Um, I mean, just in this group alone, I mean, just on that post alone, you know what I'm saying? Post alone. But like there's what, like 12 characters on here? Not 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 characters on this thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's who would we not have known of? Like without this. Without this group, like share these characters, share your favorite characters, share your characters. Give a fun fact. Like again, Mario reads these books, man. He shares these indie comic books that he reads, and so honestly, it's nothing for him to turn around and be like, "Hey, man, I just read this. I read this new Acolyte. Yeah, I saw Acolyte was able to do this, this, and this in Mystery 5, but I don't know, because that boy Soul, shameless plug, that boy Soul was rocking against Anubis and Devil. You know what I'm saying? He's fighting a god. That this is a joke that we do at conventions anyway. But Soul is fighting gods. Acolyte got knocked on his butt fighting the children of chaos. They regular people. I'm gonna stop messing with you, Lazo. But like again, like now let's have a conversation then. I don't put a claim out there. I don't said Soul's rocking against gods. I'm sure Alonzo will come back and be like, he's fighting the Supreme in the first issue, which yeah, that character definitely outscales Anubis. But that's neither here nor there. But the point is, if you knew about the backstory of these characters, which I do see a comment down below here, you know about these backstories, you get to and you're sharing these backstories about these characters and what they could do more so than just how hard they can hit. Now we can start having those nuanced conversations. Now we can start inferring more about the characters. And I think that's why we had the cards be, as one person decided to nitpick to us, is plain, right? And yeah, it's plain because I didn't want to be the one to give you all the information. I wanted to be open enough for you to go and pick up the book. I want you to go and ask the creator questions, right? Trinian is the one that we were looking at earlier, so we're going to go back to Trinian, right? We give you a little blurb here at the beginning. We tell you who made it, where you can pick it up. Atridian is so much more than laser vision, magical cosmic lightning, power transfer, and blue fire or baptism, and then the star, the living ship. He has done more with his strength, more with his abilities, right? What is he able to do with this magical cosmic lightning? Find out in the exciting issues of Atridian 1 through 3 and the revamp issue of Atridian, right? Go read it. Go find out what he can do. Or ask Ralph, right? What can he do with these abilities? What can we see? Show me the panels. Show me these other things. And throughout the week, and again, Ralph was really good about this too. He would share about the character. He shared what he did when he was not being a hero. He shared what Trinian was able to do with his powers, how he was able to help his family out, how they worked together to serve out justice the hard way, right? Which is a line in there, right? He dishes out justice the hard way. Love it, right? You're seeing more than just this being that is literally powered by the second most powerful bit of energy or the second most powerful entity in the known universe in his universe. How does that manifest in Rick Miranda, aka the Trinity of Justice? How does that manifest in him, and how does he handle the threats that come his way? Anyway, moving on to the next comment. Swift says, even with Theomanis, I think I said that right. Theomanis, you did good highlighting his abilities. Even though he has a lot, you put the right things in. Whoa, hold on, sorry. Even with Theomanis, you did good of highlighting his abilities. Even though he has a lot, you put the right things in so that way people know what he could do. And then in battles, I just specify exactly what it means by breaking down. Boom. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. But that's exactly. And that's the key. Like we don't have to give. I keep saying it like this. We don't need a dissertation because I'm not these dissertations just to tell me that the person can fly. These dissertations just to tell me that he can utilize energy constructs and shoot energy beams. I don't need all of that. I don't need all the information. If we're going to dive into a matchup, he can do this, 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 and this. I promise you, if you look at the stature abilities of a Tekken character, like, okay, bet. Because he's got a devil form, he's got the Mishima style of fighting, his durability is this, his strength is that. Like it's not an extensive list. These people know martial arts, what style. This nigga can turn into a demon. This is what the demon can do. He's able to shoot laser beams from his forehead or chest, right? The end, right? It's not a crazy. Oh, he can fly because he has wings, right? Like it's not a one-page paper due on Friday. So let's see here. Mr. Winter said, "I'm gonna drop backstory, abilities, etc. to my character soon." Yes, please do, please do. And again, I do want to say this because I did see a comment and stuff on there like, yeah, I'll probably already address this. Yeah, it is intimidating. Like, I have not seen a matchup that I can drop our character Blue Morphle in months. Not that any of the matchups that have appeared, like I would not dare. Blue Morphle versus Braxo, hell no. But Jorge dropped a character, that's street level, the hell yeah. Like if we get more people to feel um obviously bold enough, right? Drop your characters, man. Drop more characters because there was a conversation. I don't know if this was a comment or if this was a behind the scenes conversation, but you know, we talk about these overpowered characters. We talk about that. That's what we're seeing a lot. That's all that's being posted, right? That's all that's being posted are these ridiculously strong characters. If you have a character that, look, there's a character that was in the background on My Hero Academia, and his power, his quirk, was he was able to make roads. We've seen him like twice, three times in the show, right? If that's your character's power, then that's your character's power. But you know what? I'm not trying to get hit with asphalt. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, well, yeah, he's just putting roads together. Yeah, you get shot with asphalt. See how well you get back up to try to fight, right? Like, there's still something he can do. There's still some capabilities that could allow him to overcome a blue morpho, right? A pinpoint. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about those kind of nuances and stuff. So anyway, all that to say, Mr. Winter, I'm excited to see what character backstories and abilities that you drop um for your characters in verse. Um, Ralph says this is the best about indie breakdown versus all these amazing creators coming together. Absolutely, and being able to see the amount of collaborations that have come out of it, even if it's just images, but not even just the images and pinups that we see, the stories that have come up from this, right? The opportunities that have stemmed from this, right? Bad with concrete, right? Dare I be bold and say, like I'm pretty sure that was the initial meeting, right? Henosis Authority, right? That came here, like to be able to see the type of impact that's taking place because this group exists is amazing, and there's a sense of pride that comes with it, man. So again, thank you for saying that, and again, thank you for all your comments and all your participation as it relates to here in the indie breakdown, man. Keep up what you're doing, also with your stories and stuff like that. Awesome fourth cover that Chenny Dude did, by the way. Um, hold on. Okay, for the battles, Biff says, for battles, did the wins restart, or do we have the same wins as before? I'm gonna keep it buck. I'm gonna keep it a buck. If anything, if we go back to that, it's gonna restart. Um, it'll restart, clean canvas. Um, I think though, until we get to a point, unofficial, we'll talk more about it at the top of the year. But at the moment, until we get to a point where at the very least the foundation that everybody is using the indie breakdown, stats, powers, and abilities, the tiering system here. Um, I think we'll hold off for a second because I want everybody to have an understanding of what it is we're looking for. Because even now, right? Again, this battle was posted a day or so ago, and again, nothing has to do. He's newer in the group. He wanted to see some action. It's been quiet. People been scared. He wanted to see some action. Damn it, right? And so he posted the battle. Bet, no problem. That's what we're asking for. However, we have forgotten that we have a power scaling system. Um, and if you don't have a card, you can still participate. But I will say this plainly: if you're in a fight, it is required to use the power scaling system of the indie breakdown, so that we have the same understanding of what the character can do. I can't do nothing if your tiering system is, oh, my character is a level 20B and he's able to do, let's keep it a buck. What does that mean, Kobe Bryant? I don't know. I don't know what 20 anything means in the context of your verse. Oh, my character is an A1 character from, the planet Cerulean, right? Throw in another Dragon Ball reference. Right? That means nothing to, that means nothing to Brax Soul. That doesn't mean anything to him. Right. So anyway, in regards to the battles, to again, not to belabor a point here, we'll restart. We'll restart. Um, give an official answer in regards to what the battles will look like in the near future. However, we still invite you guys to battle one another and do those posts and stuff like that. It won't be something that's counted or anything like that as an official thing when we get back to that. But regardless of whether or not it's an exhibition, is what we called it when Dre was doing them, or even in the case of Trinity, right? Um, you have to use the power scaling so that anybody can go and look at the numbers. Anybody can go and look at the tier and go, okay, I understand what this character is. If you're not sure what any of the tiers are, again, it's on that card. Like there's a breakdown of what each tier, like by definition, by law, right? Like what each of them stand for, what it means, and now it's up to you to be like, my character fits that description, right? So no, not at the moment. I'm gonna holler at you in January and let you guys know for certain. Next up, we got Dre. Yeah, we talked a lot. You know a lot about Pantheon and have read grade number one. Ashton starts off with almost all of his abilities, but Veil keeps him in the dark, and slowly Ashton grows and learns to use and control his abilities. Grave is a street level, Batman level, issue one, cap strength at the end of the issue, in issue one. And by the time his story gets super far, he is a spawn-like character, but his own power is based off of hacks and items, and magical abilities. Boom. You know what I'm saying? And again, like fantastic, right? Like there's already the progression. We got Batman level strength, issue one. Cap levels of strength by the end of it because there's a progression even in that issue one. And then by the end of it, a spawn level thing, right? Spawn level character, right? But again, there is a journey aspect to it. So in the case of Grave, right? Grave's not in the database. I don't think no, Grave is in the database. Excuse me. I might have spoken uh prematurely in regards to that. I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah. You know what? If you're looking for a character, you can when you go to indiebreakdown.com, you can put in forward slash hashtag and then the character's name. No, he's not in the database unless I just fubbed it. But yeah, you should be able to just type in that. You see how it's there like that there. I can type in blue morpho, right? Ah, hell. Oops, there we go. I should be able to type in freaking acolyte, right? And it pop up that way. So if you're looking for a character and they are in the database, they should pop up in that manner, right? And again, you know what? Acolyte, another perfect example, right? We got a character who utilizes the Kokora Force, right? What is the Kokora Force? Allows him to harness and manipulate dark energy. Now, how does Acolyte utilize dark energy? How about we ask Lonzo himself, or we read the book and you see how he utilized it? We know he can fly. We know he shoots energy beams. We know he has a protective shield and stuff around him. I know this reading the books, right? But through conversation, through him sharing about his characters, you two will learn those things about the characters. Anyway, let's see. Um, Michael Watson says you speaking truths here, yes sir, yes sir. Which shout out to Michael Watson in Freestyle Comics. If you guys haven't had the opportunity to check this stuff out, please do. Specifically, going to have a shameless plug in the mix of this as well. Check out Hot Shot. Hot Shot's a fantastic show. Matter of fact, he's. I tell you what, he's not in the database. However, we have an interview in breakdown of Hot Shot, where you can learn more about. So you can watch the interview with Mike, but you can also learn more about his character, which is absolutely fantastic. The shameless plug is Michael has done something that I don't think anybody else indie space wise has done. He invited other indie creators to write an issue of Hotshot as Hotshot enters the gauntlet, right? And so there's a bunch of villains that Mike came up with that he invited again other indie creators to write those debut issues for them, and write Hotshot's fights and interactions with these characters and stuff like that. And I had the pleasure to write one. So very excited to see what you guys think of that, but also definitely check out the entire series so you know what the hell going on. But again, shouts out to Michael for being a part of the community and reaching out to the community to help him with his story. But also he's one of the OGs. He been in the game for a minute, man. It's an example of what we're trying to get to as well. These multiple stories, these universes, and all these things colliding. So shouts out to him. And there's another thing he's working on in the background that I'm very excited for. That's very much needed in the community, and I look forward to being able to potentially assist with that. So shouts out to you for even thinking about more than just self, right? More than just what it is you're doing, but how you can help the community as a whole, right? And what the community needs based on that experience that you've had coming through the ranks here. Um, Here we go. Smith says, when will battles or some RP matches start back up? I'm itching to show what Theo Miners can do. Now, the role play matches, we are going to see how well the writing prompts go because the problem that would happen with the role play thing so there's twofold, right? We have the kind of faux role play thing where again the Marvel Zombies thing, where it's like I'm kind of being the Fantastic Four or the Marvel Zombies and kind of consistent to, and that kind of consistent back and forth and waiting is taxing, right? Because we all have lives, and let's keep it above. We have other businesses to run, right? Indie Breakdown is this fun thing for me and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, me and Tasha run Midnight Comics, and that is will always be at the forefront. And I don't want to get bogged down and tired the way, or exhausted, rather, is a better word to put, like I was at the time when I was like all in with this. Um, but with that being said, between the writing prompts, the role play things and stuff like that, the biggest struggle that we had at that point in time was the participation. Because there was a D&D aspect that we wanted to bring with our friends from, if you guys remember Ben from Dice and Dopeness, he actually created a story, an actual unique story for you guys to actually play through. And two people showed up, Spiff being one of the people that showed up. And so if we're going to do the role play thing, we need more people to be a part of that, right? We need more participation. So, because we had him literally write an entire story, an entire campaign essentially. Um, and instead of creating D&D sheets, he was able to utilize the database cards to do that. And so that's one of those things where it doesn't even have to be a thing that involves everybody, but everybody would be made aware of it, like once the recording goes live or the transcript of the event takes place, right? And it'll be like how we did the Mother of Chaos event, which that blog post is up on midnightcomics.org, but we did an event. One of our first role play events, essentially, was the Mother of Chaos, and we had characters band together to try to take on Valess and the Children of Chaos from the Concrete universe, right? And so it was amazing. It was fun. There was so much participation at that point, but it's waned, right? And the characters that people try to include are just it's a whole nother echelon of character, ridiculously powerful that don't work for a lot of these things. But anyway, neither here nor there in regards to that. To answer your question, I want to get back to that. I want to get back to that properly. And the struggle is the participation aspect of that. So we want to make sure that we have a way. And we honestly want to have a way for where it's not something that's like, oh man, I got to keep looking back every day and responding and stuff like that, but a way that it can kind of be a little bit more streamlined. So anyway, more on that soon. Another thing that we want to do in regards to the versus matches is do like what we do with our creator class on the show, and just and again, it's a timing thing. It's a what am I willing to put more time into situation. Um, we got a lot going on, right? So I don't know about going live every week to do these matches and stuff like that. Um, so anyway, the idea was eventually to go back to doing. We only did it once or twice, and I think the last time we did it, it was Spiff and Lawful Evil. They had Dark Spider versus Hopebreaker going against each other. We did kind of a video situation. I would love to go back to that. However, coordinating times is always the issue with that type of thing. But yes, we want to get to all of that. We'll gauge the participation when we do the writing prompts, and we'll make our final decision depending on how well or not so well those go. What tier is Theomatis? Let's see. All right. So what you guys will see here, right? The tier is going to be mapped out. Essentially, you see the color on the front of the card is this yellow color. Now, I want to say all of the something really quick. I think Theomanis and several other characters that got into the database later are correct, and there's going to be a point in time where I need to go back in, and maybe even do a live at that point where I'm kind of actively updating the cards to match our tiering system, our current tiering system. But the tier system, which will be indicated by the color on the top right here, that is yellow and it's only one circle. So at the moment, this character would be considered a transcendent being, which is a multiform entity that exists in all places, times, or states. Right now, again, I think that character ended up in here later, so I believe that's accurate. Now, if he was in here before, might be off, but you let me know if that works. And this is what I'm going to ask everybody that's in here that does have a character in the database. If their tier, again, this is a state of being tier. So is he actually a transcendent being? And again, you can look at the tier card and you can tell me what that character actually is. Huh? Oh, you're not talking to me. Um, I realized I had it up on another screen here. But you guys look at this about your characters. You tell me where they fit in. And we're gonna do a live probably after the new year. But we're gonna do a live where I literally just sit here and work on your characters live, and get your character as accurate as possible. Um, get them as accurate as possible so that, right, anybody that comes on this website looking at these characters, they can say, what tier is the Amonis? Oh, transcendent. Bet. Right. Now let me look at freaking, top me to use another one of our characters as an example. Let's look at Soul, right? Okay, Soul's got the two kind of orangey brownish things. Where is he? That would put him at a tier five. He's an ascendant man, right? Kind of post-human and all this other stuff. It's a tier B, so power that twists the world around him. Right now, to be honest, again, I haven't updated that card, so that's not what that means anymore. We had an old power scaling system that we were using prior to, so that needs to be updated as well, right? So yeah, to the point. At the very least, at the moment, the powers are accurate. The stats are still accurate. But the tiering, because we completely flipped on its head, what the tiering system means to us and how we should be able to define it, those are going to need some massive changes. So anyway, to answer your question, the Amonis sits at a tier four as it stands now. If anything needs to change, and again, this is going to happen before we open up the database. Before we open up the database, I want to make sure that everybody's characters match this new tiering system so that I don't have to go back. I don't want to add a bunch of characters and be like, ah, hell, who was here before? Who was here after, right? I don't want to have to do that. So I want to do that before we open it back up. And then when we open it back up, I want everybody to have already looked at this, know what their characters are, know what those powers are, because I'm not trying to, if I'm being honest, I'm not trying to have to keep going back and revisiting these characters to make the edits. Give me what they can do up front. If you have a question, ask. I love talking indie characters. I love talking power scaling. I love what ifs. I love all these other things. Let's have those kind of conversations. Message, yeah, boy. Or just make a post and ask. You know what I'm saying? Anything. Michael says, I worked all day yesterday on our new big bads. Yes. Themes, inspirations, the writing rules, practicing his potential monologues. Hell yeah, bro. See? This is the fun work in the background, right? That's the fun work in the background is really just again diving into more of what the characters and what they're gonna be able to do, all the stuff that it comes with and entails, bro. No, that's awesome to hear, bro. And then no asphalt, right? Not the asphalt. Yes, sir. This platform, hands down, is the best. Man, thank you, thank y'all. Like this, that is so. Again, these comments are encouraging because there are moments where it's just like, oh man, they don't really mess with this no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, this might be trash. Did I do something wrong? Or are we not doing enough? And all these questions start happening. Um, and so it's very much encouraging to hear that you guys do really like this platform, that you guys are enjoying what we're attempting to do here. And I look forward to it. And believe it or not, guys, it's been 2 years. This group has been going for 2 freaking years. Um, which makes the show so old now. But the show will be coming back. But yeah. I'm very this it's very encouraging. So not to get emotional about it, stuff like that. But thank you guys. Um, Dre says, we need a street level event, Metal Gear Solid like event. Yes, and Metal Gear is my favorite game, very favorite game franchise. Best believe there are some writing prompts definitely be inspired. So yeah, absolutely, we need more street level events. I want to see the return to Pinpoint. You know what I'm saying? I want to see Malone. I want to see these characters, right? I think I brought up Beer and Bullets the other day on the last live, right? I want to see these characters put in a situation. I think we had a Resident Evil event back a little while back. Like, I want to see those characters, right? I want to see all those characters kind of do more than just, you know, oh, he's fighting you. Like let's see let's see more. And I'll show that Mother of Chaos event in a second, just so you guys can see what the idea is, um, with what we're doing here at the Indie Breakdown. Set facts, snap fingers. I'd love the chance to write Hot Shot. Listen, get with the boy Mike. Dre says, what gets me is when a character says my character. Well, sorry. What gets me is when a person says my characters do this in all comic universes, but will completely negate the fact that your lore does that same thing. Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. Like the statements like that is hard to. It's hard to. You can't really quantify them, right? Because you don't know how to say this. And I guess I could just speak bluntly, but example. There was an argument back in the day of Seven Deadly Sins, and they were like, well, Meliodas can use full counter on a Kamehameha wave. He should be able to use full counter on a Rasengan and stuff like that. And it's like, no, no, he cannot, because those aren't magic, right? And so to make these big blanketed statements when you don't understand the cosmology of somebody else's verse is a statement that you can't prove, right? And so yeah, it gets me too. It is a bit frustrating, right? You can't say, hey, this affects all universes because you weren't the creator of all universes. Now, there's certain aspects, right, that you can kind of infer, right? If your character can control matter, and matter works in my universe the same way it does work in your universe, then yes, in that aspect, one could argue that, yeah, sure. But when you say the very concepts of reality are under your control and they can wither away the verse automatically, there are a lot of unknowns that don't allow for that to work. Whether it's if you say dark matter and dark energy, and somebody else in their verse is like, well, dark matter and dark energy is not a thing that doesn't exist, right? Or somebody says, oh, I'm one of the ones that subscribe to this theory that dark matter, I believe it's dark matter or energy, one of the two. We'll look it up and verify in a second. Are primordial black holes, right? I love that theory. Check out Dr. Chandra Prescott. Real life people, by the way, actual theories and stuff like that. But like, okay, well, if dark matter is primordial black holes and you don't think that's the case in the creation of your in-universe thing, then our universes aren't the same, right? So for you to say that you have an idea or concept of this thing, and I'll bring up another example from um, um, Shinto lore, actually. Izanagi is said to have utilized his spear to stir up the waters and reveal the land masses. But at the time, the only land masses that were known of were the islands of Japan, and not even all of them, right? And so there wasn't an idea of the greater world at that point, right? And so if you don't know what somebody else's verse is, you can't truly make that claim that what you can do affects and exists in all universes, unless it is an agreed upon kind of concept, which invites or should invite you guys to have a conversation to understand each other's universe and be like, well, if this works in my universe this way, then that doesn't work. But this works like again, if there's matter in the verse and matter works exactly the same way in your verse, then okay, then that person could probably manipulate that matter. But if not even neutrinos can leave a black hole in my verse, but it can leave in the real world, you know what I'm saying? Our universes aren't the same, right? So anyway, have those conversations, actually talk about those things so it's better to or easier to equalize your power systems. Right. So back to the example of Meliodas, stuff like that. I wouldn't use Meliodas as an example. Now I would use his brother as an example who can block all physical attacks. Now we got a conversation. He can full counter any physical attack. All right, now let's talk. That's a battle. That's equalized physical attack. Okay, if they punch, he's full countering it. They would have to use an energy blast to overcome that. Right. So anyway, agreed. All that to say I agree. Uh boom, 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 boom. Smith says we need to do the D&D. For sure. And I want to be in it 100%. Hell yeah, bro. I know I did a big explanation a little while ago about that. I kind of dove into the D&D aspect already. But yeah, absolutely. And again, appreciate you for showing up for that one back then. Yeah, for sure. Dimensional Punch would put him on a high tier. It's essentially infinite versions of himself. all lending their power to him. One massive punch, so powerful that shockwaves is felt, excuse me, through the past, present, and future. Also, other dimensions, plus time, uh, plus time brand, which is powerful. Out of curiosity, what is time brand, or is that a typo? Um, and then I want to know, right? And these are more post questions or posts that you do that people can ask questions to, right? But right, if the character is that powerful, um, who is he fighting? And if these shockwaves are able to be felt in the past, present, and future, obviously those shockwaves are massively powerful. I think about this. So if you guys are familiar, there's a fan manga called Dragon Ball Kakume. And the first thing we see in the first couple pages is Goku fighting off against Beerus. This story, this fan fiction, fan manga takes place after the Tournament of Power. And so full powered Goku following the Tournament of Power is fighting against Beerus, who's not really holding back that much. They're fighting and they are sending shockwaves not only across their verse and destroying stuff, but also across the different universes that we met along the way. However, right, what do those shockwaves look like? Like literally on Earth, there's floods, there's earthquakes. People are literally in the background, right? They don't actually show it, but for floods and stuff to be happening, for things to be getting destroyed. Matter of fact, there's a planet that they're finding nearby that literally does get destroyed, right? I want to know with something that's going through not just the current universe, not just the dimension that we reside in, but past, present, future, and other dimensions. This character is ending life on a massive scale. I want to know. Actually, I can answer this question really quick. I can answer this question myself. So if you got a question, whether or not, so he's an anti-hero. So this anti-hero is potentially destroying life on such an incalculable and unfathomable scale that it should truly break reality, right? Because if you're sending shockwaves, and again, my example, like tell me what kind of shockwaves are we talking about? But for something to send shockwaves, there's obviously an after effect, right? It's shaking up everything, right? If it's affecting the past, what changes is this attack making on the verse then? Because anytime, which I'm sure this isn't a Kamehameha wave. This isn't something he's going to continuously do, right? But anytime he utilizes this, it literally has the potential to change the entire landscape of the universe. You've destroyed the past, or potentially destroyed something in the past that has an impact in the present and future. And then you start talking about other dimensions. Again, fabrics of reality are being affected by this. How deep do you go with an attack like this? What is the endpoint, or how deep, not endpoint, how deep do you take this concept? Or is it just he does it, it's powerful enough to eradicate the person he's fighting in the moment? And there's no additional kind of um, um I guess point after that. If that makes sense. There's no additional kind of context or ramifications is one of my favorite words. There's no further ramification of this attack outside if he just used it on this person and it only affected that person, or if it's actually sending these shockwaves out. What are the effects on the greater universe? Is my question. Which again, this is a perfect opportunity for a post for you to dive into deeper than just it sends shockwaves out. What's the effect, and what do people think, or how does this weigh on his conscience that he's doing this much damage to the verse? Um, I stand by why you answered that, but here we go. Dre Burke, or a Midnight Sun like event, supernatural side of things. Absolutely. That'd be fantastic. And oh, this reminds me that I did say I was gonna pull that website up, pull that website up, pull our website up and go to the where's my blog post? There it is. Um so we did what we were doing at the time. We had come on, indie breakdown. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba. So what we were doing when we were doing those events, so like how he's bringing up like a Midnight Suns event, da, 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 what we were doing, we had these really fun events, and I think again September 2024, so it's been a while. Well, no, hold on, let me go back. July 28th, we had Incendiary's Rampage. My personal favorite one, I think, at the moment still, because we were able to finish it all the way through, is like the Mother of Chaos event where we had characters band together, and all of this was Facebook comments, and we had everybody responding as their characters. And so from there, so this started. We did a March Madness event last year, and so all of the ridiculously strong characters were gone. And so what we ended up doing was having who was left have to face off against the less. And so again, we put out the call. So this is our character Taharka, and so we made a story out of, well, where are the other heroes? Who's left? This ship has just entered the solar system. And so we kind of filled in the blanks outside of what everybody else was saying about their characters and filled in the blanks. Like, hey, they called these people, everybody's getting involved, da 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 da. Those scenes from Powers That Be here, because that was an actual indie event that took place where people were where the Powerverse did a crossover situation, right? But yeah, like get everybody together. The biggest heroes are out of there. We need to band together. And we took these Facebook posts or comments on the greater post and made a story out of it. Right. And so this is the type of stuff I would love to see on a grand scale. And actually get some stuff done. Again, you're seeing some stuff. I have the digital version of Powers of Be. We were part of that um, story and actually edited that book. Shameless plug. Um, but yeah, um, all this all this text is what the creators said their characters would be thinking, would be doing. And we responded in kind because we were acting as the villains, right? It's the Children of Chaos from the Acolyte series. This is one of Tavis's characters. That was, we had a little in credits, Marvel in credits scene and stuff like that. So yeah, this is the type of stuff I want us to be able to do. Especially with the characters, so specifically with the characters in the database, which reminds me of like we have a gallery on Indie Breakdown, and we did a fun thing like, hey, what if this character was indie, or what if this team was indie, right? And so this was our what if the Avengers were indie, right? So we got our, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor. She's Blue Morphos are standing for Ant Man and the Wasp, and then Malik was the stand-in for Loki, right? So all these fun things, right, is the stuff that we want to get back to doing um, in the group. But we got to start with the foundation. We got to be on the same page. If we're going to do battles in the indie breakdown, then you got to use the indie breakdown power scaling system. Hard stop. Um, if you don't have a card, you have to do the fun work of typing it, copying and pasting what your characters can do based on our tiering system. I think until we do that, everybody's understanding of what each other's universes and stuff are continues to get kind of skewed, and frustrating conversations happen at that point. Dre says, Dre says, Superman punches all Brainiacs across all reality and timelines, but does that make Superman omniversal? Um, let's elaborate, right? Because Brainiac, sure, exists in different timelines or what have you, right? But when Superman punches the Brainiac in our version timeline, it's not hurting the version of Brainiac that's in the Legionnaires. You know what I'm saying? So he's not actively hurting all of them at once. Um, in a canon, right? Maybe there's an alternate universe situation or one-off story that this might have taken place in. Um, but no, do they have the same experience? Is it the same Brainiac? Is it one that transit? Maybe. But to answer your question, no, Superman is not an omniversal character at all. Not at all. Dare I say it? Right, right. Unless there's some other version of Superman that's, but no, to my knowledge, it's not even Superman 1 million isn't even a character that exists in that sense. No, oh, that the not Cyborg Superman, that one Superman that appeared in Final Crisis. Yeah, that one. Yeah, he did sit. Yeah, that one does sit outside of the multiverse, right? But that's not even Superman. That's um how was it explained? He was almost like an avatar of truth and justice, almost that sits outside to protect everything that the fabric of reality, almost. And so that version of Superman, mind you, if I'm not mistaken, is not Clark Kent proper, right? I would argue, yeah, that version of Superman. Yeah, yeah. What was the name of that Superman? So because it's bugging me. Cosmic Armor Superman. Yeah, yeah. The Thought Robot. So yeah, so that's not. Let's just double check. Yeah. So yeah, he's not Clark Kent. So yeah, so no, so Cosmic Armor Superman, I could definitely argue and agree that that would be an omniversal being. But outside of that, absolutely not. Time Brand is like a laser blast from his eyes that age anything that touches it. Entropy, since he's got split, since he has got split two other versions of himself. I feel like there's a typo in there, but I'm just keep going. Making it a total of three, including himself. All of them across the multiverse have time run. Okay, he's split into three characters. It's split. So okay, I got it. Since he's got split two other versions, so he's splitting those three of them all across the multiverse. They have time brand. That's their shared ability. And it triples. And if all of them use it at the same time, aging it and corroding it 3 times the rate, Theomanis, and I'll put the rest of this on screen here, at base around Wonder Woman and Thor, he can amp himself to get higher. Now, see, hold on. So I think there's so even there, right, there's a nuance. And now forgive me if I'm misconstruing this at all. Um, and you know what, as I'm getting ready to explain it, I think I have come to a sort of understanding. So you're saying, based on these two different statements, so he's split in three. So there's three of him. But those three are also there's infinite versions of those three of him. Because in the previous thing, he would be it's essentially infinite. So Dimensional Punch would put him on a higher tier. It's essentially infinite versions of himself lending their power for one massive punch. So my initial question would be: are there infinite of him, or are there three of him? But where I'm coming to, as I'm saying it out loud, is he's split in three, but then there's an infinite amount of those three throughout the cosmos. Is that what you're saying? And if that's the case, how did they get split up? But again, you don't have to continue to answer this here. These are posts. These are the nuance of the posts that we're looking for, right? Hey, this character has been split into three persons. Who are those three persons? And then not only that, then you dive into, but there's an infinite amount of him throughout the omniverse or power, I almost said powerverse, right? Or multiverse, so on and so forth, right? Give us that breakdown so that we understand what that looks like. Because again, base level confusion was: are there three of them, or are there an infinite number of him, or is there an infinite number of him, and only in this one instance he was split into three, or there's an infinite number of these three persons that make up the one. You know what I'm saying? These are posts. These are the deeper dives that we want, not just hey, I got an infinite punch move. Cool, but who? How? How does it work? And give us that insider kind of look. How it works. But okay, I understand time brand now. So you know the final end. So he essentially is the end of all things. The creator told the final end to leave the Heartline universe for last in order to keep it away from destroying it. But the Omanus punch was so powerful that the final end felt it, it came back to the Heartline universe. So, okay. I have questions, obviously. I'm trying to. Okay. You have characters in verse that can argue with narrators, that can bend reality, and ignore the cosmology of or the concept of the and rules of your verse. So my question then, the duck, I think is Rias, right? The Heartline Menace proper. Um, I wanted to say there was one more, and obviously they're honest with the punch. Do they supersede the final end? And do they supersede the creator? Because when we start talking about the narrator, right, in most cases, when other fictions utilize that, the creator or the narrator is usually the god of the verse, right? So then of course the play on verse, right? Uh, my headphones, my headphones died and came back on. So y'all let me know if you could still hear me. That was weird. Can y'all still hear me? Can you still hear me? Hmm. Testing. Hold on. Okay, yeah, we're back. Okay. But yeah. So yeah, I want to know. I want to know because there's a lot of I think the word I'm looking for is inconsistency. In regards to that, right? Or not maybe contradiction is more the word I'm looking for. I feel like there'd be a contradiction now, right? If does the creator and the final end, if you have two characters, three really, I'll say two. Theomatus can be noticed, but Rias can ignore the creator and do what he wants and go through comic pages, and Heartline Menace can pull stuff and enter and escape to other worlds, realities, verses, and all this other stuff. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, so do those two characters supersede that, thus giving them an edge on even these end all be all beings? You know what I'm saying? So, like, if you could dive in a little deeper in regards to that for us, because again, surface level is like, oh, holy crap, there's nothing that can stop the end, but this cybernetic duck technically can. He could be like, I ignore this very concept. I argue against the very concept of the final end. How about a new beginning? You know what I'm saying? How about, you know what I mean? Like, dive in a little deeper in regards to that. On a post. Dive heavier on a post. You said 20 minutes left. 20 minutes. Okay. We're gonna bring it to a close soon. Because I was starting to have a little fun, not fun, but I guess I have belabored some points. But the comments are coming, and this has been great. The thought process of vast power is why Pantheon doesn't use weapons and focus a lot on his ability to use his aura so he doesn't destroy everything around him. And his aura can be used on anything, anyone. So if a being eats souls and Pantheon is with Batman, he can guard him from said enemy, unless that enemy is strong as or stronger than Pantheon. So whatever protection Ashton has, due to his aura, others around him that he seeks to share are also protected. He focuses more on that ability than his others, so he can protect civilians. Right? Wonderful. You know what I'm saying? So it's taking these characters that could be or that are really truly powerful, and showcasing more than just punching hard. Like there's nuance to that character. Because it could be selfish to be like, well, you might die, but I tell you what, I'll save millions by focusing on my energy on this super powerful attack and take this guy out. Never mind the casualties. What's 100,000 to 7 billion?
So yeah, I got you. And then okay, longer post. Dimensional punch sends out shockwaves, but doesn't affect the past or future. The force of the punch is just felt. But by definition, that is an effect, right? People being able to feel that is an effect. And so if it's something that's so powerful that it can break through the barrier of past, present, future, and dimensionalities, that's more than just something shaking. You know what I mean? That's more than just an earthquake. And hell, even if we just say shock waves from earthquakes, those are devastating or can be, right? Just the aftershocks of bombs going off are devastating if you start talking about the upper echelons of weapons of mass destruction, right? You know, again, most famously, you see nukes, right? How you test nukes, and they fire them in the desert, and then many miles away, the shock wave of the blast decimates buildings and the mannequins and all these other different, all everything that's in that blast radius, right? So it's not even just the explosion of it. So again, by like definition, essentially, like if it's being felt, like what's the level in which it's being felt that it can penetrate the very veil of time, right? And then I am on this massive kick about what is time lately in regards to research and stuff like that. But the question is like, what is time in your verse? The scholars suggest there is no present. So when you say present, what is that? These are the definitions in regards to universes that I want to know. Because by the time you heard me say that, that's old shit. That's the past, right? What I'm going to say is the future, but there's never a moment that you live in the present. There's always, by the time you register any moment, it is the past. So there is no present. So if that's the case, according to the scholars, what does your universe mean by past, present, future? Obviously, we don't have to dive into that, right? That's whatever kind of conversation. Obviously, we say the present for ease sake to talk about right now. But again, when we talking about cosmology and universes and really diving into the nuance on how our different comic book worlds work, right? And making claims to hold on. When it comes to all those other things, these are the kind of like nuanced things that we were talking about. But anyway, that's the first paragraph. Let's get to the rest. Sorry, no, dimensional punch sends out shockwaves, but doesn't affect the past or future. The force of the punch is just felt. Because all verses of him are in sync at that exact moment, because they all share a piece of the Krythos, which is the embodiment of force itself in your universe. The before world was before the Big Bang. It was essentially a whole massive world where gods and Nephilim were all together. Something went wrong, and a war started. And the creator, which is essentially my one above all, decided to wipe out the universe, and that's where the Big Bang started. So the force of the Big Bang, resetting everything, split the embodiment of force through the multiverse, and that's what each of the Imanis or wielders of Krythos use to be in sync with each other, because they each have a percentage of the embodiment of force. But again, right, like that's still really so like there's no other, you know what I'm saying, like that the only force that matches that is the Big Bang, or that supersedes that as the Big Bang. So we're talking about an insurmountable, unfathomable force, and we're saying the shockwaves don't really, and again, our subjective, this is your story, don't take any of this the wrong way or anything of that nature, right? I'm simply asking for understanding, but words mean things, right? And so it's just I'm genuinely inquiring, how deep does this go? This is still, even based on the explanation, a ridiculously powerful move that the creator, really just the creator, has the ability to take care of, and maybe the final end. So again, we're talking about a multiversal thing whose force is only surpassed by the God of the verse and the Big Bang. What does it say about the final end and its capability? Is what I'm curious about. And again, these are posts, right? These are the posts that we're looking for, where you guys dive in deeper about these type of things. But it did, when he punched him, all of them felt it. I could pull up the scans. Please do, absolutely. And that's great. But in the case of Brainiac, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Brainiac might feel it. Again, matter of fact, if we use horrible example, but if we use Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League as an example, yeah, all the Brainiacs were in sync to attack Earth at the same time, right? And do what they were doing. So Brainiac is a being or a machine that exists and is connected to one another mechanically, right, across the omniverse. But that doesn't make Superman an omniversal being, right? Because when he punches any other character, it doesn't hurt any other version of them. So no, that doesn't make Superman an omniversal being. I feel like it would be a stronger argument to say in some capacity Brainiac would be. But again, that's not the case. He just is connected to them, whichever manner you want to describe it. If it's just like how it is in Suicide Squad or whatever, it's like a mechanically kind of connected or just in person. Because again, Superman doesn't punch anybody else and it affects anybody else in a different universe. So no, again, I don't think Superman is omniversal at all. But yeah, I would love to see, you can message me the scans. Thank you, Aleem. Yeah, the thought robot. Yeah, absolutely. Dre Burke, Theomanus can break reality in certain areas that he uses his punch. This is something he doesn't do often because it also takes the other version of himself to lend their power. But right, and this goes back to that. And again, we're talking about specific characters right now, guys. But all of this still, I was going to say we kind of got off topic, but this is kind of the point, right? These are the questions. These are the levels of the abilities that we want to be discussing in the regular post, right? And we want to tie this to the indie breakdown power scaling system, right? But again, this back and forth, this questioning that I'm asking, like, okay, well, based on what we know of the universe, or based on what we know about time, based on what we know about reality, how does this affect this? And if he is actually destroying dimensions, if he is actually breaking reality, right? What's left for him to do, right? Who is he fighting? What is the state of the universe after he utilizes this ability that is felt through time? Because just again, if we start talking about butterfly effects and stuff like that, you shook the past and you knocked over a tree and that tree killed a butterfly. What does a million years look from now? What does life on Earth look like now? What does life in the greater cosmos look like now? Because you've done this on such a massive scale, right? What does your universe look like when you start destroying stuff that is the very fabric of your world's reality? Is what, again, glad to finally be hearing more in-depth stuff about some of these characters. But yeah. So basically, God Split is an ability that where he can summon two versions. God Split is an ability where he can summon two other versions of himself to help him for smaller battles, so he can entertain them, but only kills two of them out at once to help him. But there's infinite versions of him that lend power for dimensional punch throughout the. So we won't keep going back and forth with the character specifically. But again, these are the in-depth conversations, stuff like that. Obviously, I definitely have plenty of other questions as it relates to that character. We're going to parking lot that for now. Ralph, I'm late seeing that, but Merry Christmas, bro. See you next time. Final N1's Ultimate Silence. His punch was loud. It called him back to Hotline. No, the finale end is above the Hotline Menace and Rias. Rias can jump in and out. He has a very fine, minor fourth wall abilities. But again, jumping out of your reality isn't a minor thing, right? And I think this was a conversation we had in regards to scale, right? And this goes back to our power system, right? We see characters that are standing in front of black holes. I think about Omni-Man, right? But like, although he was kind of in the vicinity of that black hole, he still almost lost to the Guardians of the Globe, who none of them are able to stand in front of a black hole. You know what I'm saying? He almost got that damn mallet or mace that not Wonder Woman. What was her name in the show? Whatever her name was. Like, he was hurt by these regular people. I say these earthlings, if you would, right? And so, is he able to withstand a black hole? Hell no, right? We infer that by how much damage he was able to take by regular ass people. right? He was at the right distance away. That black holes are massive. He was at the right distance away that he wasn't completely sucked in and destroyed. Again, the distance in which we can be versus the distance he can be, two completely different things. But as impressive as Omni-Man is, kind of spoilers, but I'll keep it vague. Omni-Man's not even planetary by himself. It took 3 of them to do what they did in the book. You know what I'm saying? Sure, I guess everybody was kind of weakened and stuff like that. It still took 3 of them. Vegeta was sitting there blowing up planets with 2 fingers as a kid, teenager. Roshi's blowing up moons. You know what I'm saying? So again, it's interesting, these scales and what the things that we're talking about. There's like two aspects. Like, one, a lot of animes and shows don't really, they do and don't. Obviously, they're trying to show how powerful and amazing the characters and stuff are, but we forget the very concept of some of these things and how massive these things are. A black hole is nothing to play with. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is not even light can escape. That's insane, right? And we don't think about how amazing and how powerful and how terrifying these things actually are. So when we start kind of throwing these things out there, it's like there's way more depth to the thing than the feat. And it's like, hey, wait, if you destroy the dimension, after the fight's over, there's consequence. Tell me about how this affects. And again, from the sound of it, he's only really using it once or twice. But again, there has to, like, what, that's what I know more of. But anyway, I have about 5-10 minutes left. What if he summons 2 of them that suck, like normal version of him, or him as an ant? Hush up. Dre Burke, yes, in a way, whoever has Krythos could tap into each other's minds. The creator made the final end. He is a severed hand. Okay. What did I miss? Emeka, I ain't gonna hold you. You missed a lot. You missed a lot. You missed about an hour, 2 hours and 5 minutes. Now I'm late seeing that, so it's probably been a little bit longer for you. But we talked about the database. We talked about Nathan's post, which was phenomenal. Please go back and look at that. It very much mimics a lot of what we've been saying and a lot of the things that we want to see. And so instead of just honing in on just, I guess, the negative connotations of that, we have been making sure to say definitively, if any battles are going to take place within the group, you must utilize our power system in the database. So you can go to Nexus or Reckoning, but the cards are, they're the same. Reflect on what tier your character would be, and then reflect on what their stats would be. Okay. So if you don't have a card, which Emeka, you do have a card, obviously not for everybody, but you do have a card. So whatever your character can't do. If you don't have a card, still utilize this so that when we start talking about battles, right, we start having these characters go against each other, there is a consensus. There's an understanding of where everybody stands, what the verse is, what their, it doesn't matter what they could do in verse in their universe. We have an equalized, if you would, we have a standard that we're going by for power scaling indie comic book characters here in the group, that if you're going to take place in a battle, those are the stats that you drop. Again, there's other power stat systems out there. I know Tavis has one. We've been utilizing his for a little while. There's the official ones for mainstream characters that you can go on, power scaling websites for, and all this other stuff. All that's fine, Danny. And everybody has, quite a few people have in-universe power scaling stuff. However, if we're going to do versus matches, or if you're going to participate in versus matches, obviously I'm saying you, but I don't mean just you. If anybody in here in the group is going to take part in battles, there's going to be a battle posted. The power scaling system that you are to utilize so that everybody understands. And if they don't understand, go and verify via the Indie Breakdown site. You're going to use the Indie Breakdown power scaling cards or stat system. So that's really the gist of it. Just been answering questions mostly after that. And actually we did a deep dive really kind of into one of Spiff's characters, Theomanis. We used Ralph's character, Atridian, as an example in some parts. And so, yeah, we've had some really good conversation as a whole over the course of this last 2 hours. And I've been saying just to Emeka just now, but Paige, same thing. That's kind of what we've been discussing. Dre brought up a good point, something again that we've also been saying. We want some street level events. And I know lately it's been a lot of godly characters, a lot of what classifies OP characters, stuff like that. And again, like we're seeing a lot of those characters, but I think the other side of it is we're not seeing anybody post a lot of street level characters. Because again, outside of Pinpoint, and Street Smarts, how many street level characters have we seen posted? In arguably Grave, right? How many street level characters are we seeing be posted in comparison on a regular basis, right? In comparison to the god high tier characters. So, please do not feel scared to have your character on here, share those characters, talk about those characters. There's always going to be somebody stronger. There's always going to be a character that's that outshines your character in power and ability or whatever the case is, right? But it's not about how strong that character is, right? I want to know the love that you put into the character. I want to know what they're about to overcome, what they're about to do. So that's kind of basically the gist of what we've been talking about over the course of these 2 hours. I'm about to close out here in a second. So I could break it down in a post to make it easier because I know there's a lot. Yeah, please. And honestly, Spiff, that's several posts. You know what I'm saying? Like one day it's like dimensional punch, and then the next day is like, hey, I had questions about people had questions about dimensional punch. Here's what it does specifically. Oh, okay. How does that affect my universe? That's another post. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right there. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, break it up. Break it up. What if they don't want to go? Da, 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 da. And then exactly the questions that Dre is asking. Like these are the comments back and forth. Dre said the Superman topic is what I was saying in regards to the Theo Spiff thing. Oh, okay. What's his sword made of? Da, da, da. So yeah. So their conversation is really mimicking what we're hoping you guys experience when you share your characters. People genuinely asking, well, what can they do? How does that work? And even if nobody asks, how does that work? Make a post explaining how it works, right? And then Emeka says, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but as someone who is more of a fan of characters that can die and have weaknesses and start from the bottom versus starting with the absolute top, why is the attraction? What is the attraction to that? Like Dragon Ball Z, I've fallen out of love with because the powers just got too much and a bit ridiculous. Absolutely. And I could write a dissertation on Dragon Ball. I love me some Dragon Ball. And I agree. I absolutely agree. Where do you go from here? I personally, now back in the day, I might have gotten crucified for this, but I think in as of lately, more people have come into the fold, and it makes me so proud. But I'm more of a GT guy than I am Super, right? It doesn't break the original story. They do still progress, but they're still threats. There's still, the whole theme of GT is consequence for action. Black Star Dragon Ball arc. Nobody told them about the Black Star Dragon Ball and the dangers of it. Of course, it was created by the nameless Namekian before he split, right? Baby, the Saiyans and the Tuffles, Super Android 17, all their enemies from the past, Shadow Dragons, their overuse of the Dragon Balls, Chef's Kiss. Sure, was there still power creep? Absolutely, right? But it didn't get so ridiculous that it left their realm, right? It's like they're not fighting the gods, right? There should not be a limit past the angels and the gods of destruction, right? Like that's it. That's it. That should be a level that they could never, ever reach, just out of range, which could have made the threat of Beerus just that much more. Anyway, but the point is, right? Yeah, I felt like, I agree. They kind of fell off because, again, every season was a power creep situation. I personally think they should have ended at the Cell Saga and just came out with a couple more movies to show Gohan's got it from here and been done with it. Or if they're going to do the Boo Saga, I'm sorry, I'm rambling now. Boo Saga, have Gohan in that next generation actually solve the problem, and then let the torch pass properly and go from there. But yeah, to your point, every season has to be this stronger character. Every season has to be, and it just gets ridiculous. It gets ridiculous, and I don't know. And that's an anime thing, but eventually anime's in, and I think the problem is we start to see this happen in comic books now, and comic books just keep going, right? Yeah, you reboot the universe, but 9 times out of 10, there's something from the past that survives that restructuring, And the problem is, if you have these characters that have reached these ridiculous levels and you reset and they still remember or they're still able to do these things, again, what's the threat? That's when you run into panels. And I don't remember if this was the Tom King run or not of Batman. You have Catwoman being able to hit the Flashes when they're running around them. Unacceptable. Because now Catwoman is able to perceive the Flashes at any point that they're using the Speed Force and hit them and knock them on the behinds before the others can react. Unacceptable. But back to what Emeka was saying specifically. Yeah, I'm personally, I said this earlier, I'm more of a fan of the ground level characters when it comes to even Marvel and DC, because it's like they don't have all the answers. I think that's why I also truly loved the Robert Pattinson, the Batman, because he wasn't the world's greatest detective yet. Like, he was figuring it out. He was still trying to figure it out. You know, it wasn't, oh, because I'm Batman, and he knew the answer. We were on the journey with him. You know, so yeah. So I agree. I absolutely agree. And, you know, art's subjective. Everybody has their preferences and stuff like that. And we have powerful characters too, but there's always a caveat, right? Soul's got the power to Egyptian deities, but he has no one to teach him how to utilize the powers. He doesn't know who or what he is. And then he has to fight the Egyptian pantheon. Oops. I don't even know how to do this. I mean, I know I can punch hard. I know I can fire off blasts. I know I can fly, but what's the hidden knowledge of the gods? I don't know. How does he get past that? He's got to learn his history. He's got to learn the history of the gods, all while avoiding the beings that fully know who they are and don't like him. So, yeah. Anyway, I agree, Emeka. I agree. But it's subjective. So, but anyway, everybody, I want to say thank y'all for sticking with me for 2 hours and 15 minutes. This was phenomenal. Obviously, go back, watch it. Go to the indiebreakdown.com website. Look at the power stats. Look at the tiers. Look at our power scaling, because from now on, from this moment on, any battles must utilize the Indie Breakdown power scaling system. So we tried to make it easy with the database. Anybody that's joined the database, kudos. If you haven't, you're going to have to play the copy-paste game. You're going to have to type the stuff in manually. But when you get tired of that, don't worry. The database will open up next year. And when we open it back up, we hope a whole new flood of characters comes in, and we can get back to doing the fun stuff. I want to get back to the role play stuff. I want to get back to the battles. I want to do all these things. But first and foremost, we're going to try the writing prompts. Again, the writing prompts, you must use the characters in the database. And we recommend that you don't even use any of your own characters. Write other people's characters based on the little bit that you know of the character. And we want to see what kind of stories you guys come up with utilizing other people's characters. Not saying you can't use your character, but just saying we recommend it. So again, it generates conversation. It generates, oh, I didn't think you saw my character in that way. I didn't, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know what I'm saying? So please, anyway, thank you guys. We truly love each and every one of you. Thank you for the support. We appreciate it. And again, thank y'all for the kind words, because again, there's moments where I don't think that you guys actually still mess with this, and I apologize for having those moments of weakness. Right? So again, thank you for that love and support. Thank you for supporting us. And any updates? No, I don't think there's any updates. All right. Yeah. And thank you for helping us helping us create a power and scaling system for the indie world. So anyway, I'm closing out. Yeah, I completely forgot what we knew you should say. Oh, yeah, thank you, Tasha. Thank you for helping us redefine power scaling in the indie world. And we'll catch you guys next time. Visit indiebreakdown.com. All right, that's all for real. See y'all.
Bitch, I'm